Welcome to this video where we are going to have a look at what the DVSA have said are the top reasons for learners failing their driving tests. We are then going to look at some expert tips on how we can avoid making these mistakes, impress those examiners, and pass our driving test. To give you a bit of background about the UK driving test, the UK driving test is around 50% across the country. Some regions it's slightly higher, some it's slightly lower, but this has pretty much remained the same for many, many years. And this is great for around half of you out there. But I don't know about you, but personally, I would really like to increase those odds. So here's what we're gonna do. We have included 5 of the top reasons for failing your driving test in the UK. We have also included some really simple and more importantly, really easy to implement tips on how you can avoid those mistakes. So first of all, I'm going to read exactly what the DVSA have said people are failing their driving test on. And then I'm going to translate that to what the hell does that mean? Before finally finishing off with what the examiners are actually looking for to avoid each of these mistakes. Let's get into the video. So one of the top reasons for failing your driving test in the UK is not responding to traffic lights correctly. And this could include anything from not stopping at a red light to stopping at a green light. But here are our top tips on how to avoid getting this serious fault on your driving test. Now the first one, there is a huge amount of confusion around the amber light. If you come across a flashing amber light, this means you're at a pedestrian crossing. Provided there's no pedestrians on the crossing and no feet at all are still on the road, that means you can carry on when it's safe to do so. The next thing is don't panic if you go through an amber light, okay? Sometimes we don't have time to stop, sometimes we just make a mistake. But as the saying goes, fool me once, but don't fool me twice. If you make a habit of going through every amber light, let's just say this is going to look bad if you're on your driving test for sure. If the light's going from green to amber, this means you should be preparing to stop if it's safe to do so. And the examiner's going to ask themselves, could you have safely stopped before that light went red? If the answer is yes, unfortunately your driving test is not going to go the way you wanted it to, unless you didn't want to pass. Moving on swiftly. If you see a green arrow like this, it means go, go, go! No, but in all seriousness, if you see a green arrow, that means that all other traffic that could affect your direction will have been stopped by a red light. So providing there's no pedestrians or anyone else on the road, you should be able to continue on. But on the other side of that, don't always just sit there and wait for a green arrow. This happens a lot at crossroads. Sometimes they have a green arrow that turns on to let people turn right, but these aren't always turned on. The green arrows are sometimes only set to turn on when the traffic gets particularly busy. If the traffic's not busy, you are still supposed to go if you see a green light and it's safe to do so. And the final point, if you cross that line of doom and the traffic light suddenly changed to red, you are now sitting inside the middle of the crossroads, which means you need to continue on the second it's safe to do so. Because if your lights are going red, the other lights are going green, which means you're now sitting in the middle of the crossroads. See me on the crossroads, crossroads. Anyway, now there is so much more to talk about traffic lights and signals, but I do not have time to talk about it right now. However, it will be in my online driving course, which is in the description below. Get your driver's license faster and cheaper than ever with our online driving course. Sign up now and start learning at your own pace. Let's get this video started. So if you are interested in finding out more about traffic lights, feel free to click on that, have a look. The next biggest reason for failing your driving test, the DVSA have said, is poor positioning on the road during normal driving. Pretty much what it says on the tin, either getting too close to the curb, too close to the central line, or getting too close to cars or bikes. Regardless of what you've done, they consider that particular situation dangerous because perhaps it's a pedestrian or you got too close to another car, and that's why your test has gone badly. Here are the best tips to avoid getting one of these roadblocks, so to speak. I'm gonna sound a bit like a broken record here because I'm sure you've heard this a million times, but I've gotta say it one more time because sometimes we just haven't heard it enough. If there are 2 lanes, the left lane is your normal driving lane. The right lane is your overtaking lane. This means if you need to overtake or turn right, get into that overtaking lane. But when you've finished overtaking, don't sit in the overtaking, get back into the normal driving lane. If you are not overtaking, you are normal driving. And if you're normal driving, you should be in the normal driving lane. If you sit in that overtaking lane, you are blocking other people from overtaking, which means someone's then going to undertake you. And if someone undertakes you, that is a should not do in the highway code, which you've caused, which is going to affect your driving test badly. How close should you be to the curb? My safest suggestion is to make sure that you're a drain's width away at all times. Now, don't get me wrong, some roads are wider, which means you can stay a bit further from the curb, but provided you are not going on the drains, you are not going to be too close. And the same could be said from the central white line. Make sure you're at least a drain's width from that central white line, and again, there shouldn't be a problem. Now, as I said before, this is going to vary depending on how wide the particular road that we're talking about is, but that's a rough bet that's going to keep you nice and safe. Now, there's two really easy ways that we can make sure we're staying in the center of our lane. The first one is use your left leg, position your left leg in the center of the lane. Provided your left leg is central of your lane, your car will be central to the lane as well. Don't ask me why this works, but it does. Try it. The second one, and I use this for bumps a lot, going over bumps, if you get the center of your steering wheel, the top center of your steering wheel in the middle of the lane while you're in a normal seated position, again, your car will be in the middle of your lane as well. You also need to make sure you're keeping the correct distance from the cars that you're following. Now, I haven't got time to go into this in great depth now, but the general rule is 2 seconds. If you want to find out more about a 2-second time gap, feel free to have a look at my videos or drop me a message and I'll do something else on that. Alternatively, have a look at my course. Now, that includes all bikes, cars, vehicles, anything at all. In fact, if it's a bike, we should be even further back. Why? Because they're more vulnerable. Why would you think it would be a good idea to get closer to the person on 2 wheels that if you touch is going to cause a lot of damage compared to the car that, well, not going to do as much damage. We also need to be aware of how close we are to cars when we're stopping, when we're queuing up in traffic. Easiest way to keep track of that is tarmac and tires. Anytime you stop, just make sure you can see the tires of the car in front, as well as a little bit of tarmac between the back tires and your bonnet. And remember, you can't really leave too much space because if you're stopping at the red light, well, no one can go anywhere anyway. I think one of the biggest hurdles in this section, however, is the good old-fashioned roundabout straight liner. If you're wondering what I mean, this is when you follow the road ahead at a roundabout, taking the second exit, but instead of going around the edge of the roundabout, we just straight line, go from the left lane, hugging the roundabout, and straight on as if it's a straight road. If you do that, that is a surefire way to get a serious test destroyer. Simplest way to avoid this is, remember, when you're entering the roundabout, you're on a roundabout because it's round, so follow the outside curb all the way until you come out of your exit. If you're struggling to do that, and sometimes it's very easy, especially if we're using the right side to guide us, we end up cutting across the corner. Best way to avoid that is focus on the outside curb as we go around. That way you will be more inclined to steer to the curb and stay nice and close rather than steering to this line and cutting across. Another amazing way to keep your positioning is to like the video. Again, loads more information on my online driving course for this particular fault, so if you want to have a look, it's in the description below. The next one DVSA have said is not responding to traffic signs. You ever miss that hidden giveaway sign or a cheeky speed limit change? You know what I mean? No, but seriously, I had one of these last week. My student failed. I was absolutely gutted because they are one of my best, but it's just too easy to fall victim to one of these surprises. So here's what we're talking about. The stop sign. It's big, it's octagonal. What does it mean? It means you have to stop. And not just mentally stop, you have to physically bring that car to a full stop, just for a second. It also means you need to stop waiting and press that subscribe button right now. No, but seriously, if this is helping, wait till you see what's coming next week. Another massive do-do is the keep left sign. These are normally in places which are deemed a bad place to try and overtake. A quick example of this are like the island crossings. If you're following a cyclist past one of these islands that pedestrians can cross at, you'll often see the keep left sign. The safest thing you can do here is just carry on following the cyclist because you cannot overtake here. Once you pass the island and you pass the sign, you can then carry on overtaking whenever it's safe to do so. Now, if you see this sign, it means don't go. Blue sign shaped like this means this lane is for you or you must do. Unfortunately, the sign's got a picture of a bus on, so the bus, this lane is for you, or you must do, you're not a bus, so don't go in there. Now, you're going to find these in particularly busy areas such as towns, city centres. Best way to avoid this situation is you need to get top notch at your awareness and planning skill. The best way to improve this skill is to practice commentary driving. If you don't know what I mean, pop a comment below and I'll pop you a link in for the no stopping game, or you can have a look at the rest of my YouTube channel and find the no stopping game there. Now, another big test breaker is the secret giveaway signs. And if you come across these, you'll know what I mean. They're the really tough signs, a bit like this, where you just can't see them or you miss them because it looks like a straight road. The problem with this is if you don't spot them, the danger is really, really bad. Like I said before, best way to avoid this is get your planning and awareness skills up to top notch by commentary driving. It's just being super hyper aware of the really important things. And that includes traffic lights, brake lights, give way signs, speed signs, and everything else in the whole world. And the only way you can do this is to practice scanning the signs as you go. As I said, have a look at my other video. My final point here is do not trust the sat-nav speed. The examiners do sometimes tell you this. The sat-nav speed is not reliable. It could be an older speed limit. Just don't trust it. Just simple as that. The next juicy number is not having full control of the vehicle when moving off. Basically, you've moved off wrong. The main points around this are stalling, clutch control, and an angled start. I'll show you what I mean. One of the big test breakers here is when someone actually stalls a car and then starts rolling back. Sometimes they might not stall a car, they might just roll back. Whatever happens, if there's a car or if you roll back too far, that's showing a lack of control. Don't need to say anymore. This is so easy to fix. Just make sure you use your handbrake anytime you come across a hill. If you're not sure, use your handbrake. You're very unlikely to get marked down for using your handbrake too much. Now, the stalling part can be a little bit more tricky because when we stall, sometimes we panic, especially if we're still learning to drive. So the best thing I do with my learners, particularly if they are panicking when they're stalling, is to teach them to stall like a pro. Then you might be asking, how can you teach them to stall like a pro, Josh, you salted nugget? And that's a very good question. Go somewhere nice and quiet and practice stalling and fixing it in a nice, safe environment. Continually practice this until you can do it with your eyes closed. You should be able to get that car back started and going safely in less than what? 3-4 seconds? Once you can do that in a safe environment, you're going to feel far less under pressure when you're at that roundabout or junction and the dreaded stall happens there. It will just become more natural with practice. Don't believe me? Have a go. And the final point in this section is anytime you're pulled over on the side of the road, before you drive away, make sure you have a 360-degree look all the way around the car, like one of those 360-degree cameras. It's your job to make sure that you are not going to affect anyone else. And if there's going to be someone else about, it's going to be on your driving test. Trust me. On your driving test, you're going to be expected to do an angled start, which simply means you are going to be pulled up close to a vehicle, approximately half a car, maybe a car's length away, and you're going to be expected to get out from that position while driving forwards without getting too close to the car. The easiest way to do this is get lots of turn before you even move the car, then use clutch control to go nice and slowly out from behind the car, keeping that meter distance at all times, and hey presto, no serious fault. And the final one, not keeping control of the vehicle while reversing. What it says on the tin, whatever you've done, it was during the time you were going backwards. Now this one is a little bit of a pig, but luckily it is quite an easy fix. Well, it is once you know what you're doing. So here we go into the final frontier. So exactly the same as the previous tip. Anytime we're planning to reverse, the first thing we need to do is have a 360-degree look all the way around the car. Provided you're not going to affect anyone else, it's now safe to start reversing. If there is anyone else about, just wait. My next biggest tip is to go super duper whooper slowly. When I say this speed, I'm talking snail speed, 1 to 2 miles per hour maximum throughout the whole maneuver. Yes, you might feel super duper slow, but that's okay, that's safe. And there's 2 reasons for this. The first one, slower is so much easier to maneuver the car. You just won't go wrong if you do it really, really slowly. And the second reason, it's going to be far harder for you to accidentally run a vehicle over or a person over if you're going 1 or 2 miles an hour. Slow, going backwards equals good. Now, I always suggest to students, you shouldn't try and reposition the car more than once if possible. That means anytime you're doing a reverse bay maneuver, if you haven't got it in the lines, you shouldn't try and attempt to go forward and then reposition going backwards more than one time. But there is only one thing worse than going forward and backwards more than once, and that's not finishing inside the lines or finishing on the top of the curb. So if you are on the curb or you are not in between the lines when you finish this maneuver, just reposition even if it's more than once, because you still have a good chance of passing. However, if you finish outside the lines or finish with a tyre on the curb, you will definitely not pass. So regardless of what happens with your maneuver, never throw the towel in, never give up, never surrender. Now remember, none of this will mean diddly squat unless you practice, practice, practice. And if you have any questions related to your driving test or learning to drive experience, get them in the comments below. There is no such thing as a silly question. I am more than happy to help. If you missed the other 5 top reasons for failing your driving test, carry on and watch this video on the screen right now. Good luck, my friends. Until next time,